Hello, welcome to Undercurrent. I am Mehtap Arslan, and this is episode 3 The Weight Nobody Measures. In our first episode, we explored why people don't change even when they agree with a change. Because agreement doesn't automatically create change. In the second episode, we explored why training alone doesn't create adoption. Because knowledge doesn't automatically create capability. And today, I'd like to talk about the people who often sit in the middle of both of those challenges. Let me start with a question. Have you ever been part of a transformation where senior leaders seemed pretty optimistic, while employees seemed anxious? And somewhere in the middle was a manager trying to make sense of everything for themselves, for their team, for the organization, all at the same time. If you've worked in the organizations long enough, you've probably seen this. Because transformation doesn't arrive equally for everyone. Executives often experience transformation through the outcomes they hope to achieve. Greater efficiency, better performance, new capability. Employees often experience transformation through the disruption it creates. Middle managers experience both. They're expected to understand the future while continuing to deliver in the present. They need to learn new ways of working while helping others learn them. They need to manage their own uncertainty while creating confidence for their teams. And they often have to explain decisions they didn't fully participate in making. That is a difficult position to be in, yet we rarely talk about it. One thing I've noticed throughout my career is that transformation conversations tend to focus on two groups, leaders and employees. But most transformations are not actually experienced through executive presentations. They are experienced through managers. Employees ask managers for clarity. They ask managers for reassurance. They watch managers closely to understand what really matters. In many ways, managers become translators. Translators of strategy into daily reality, translators of ambiguity into action, translators of uncertainty into something people can function within. And translation is harder than it sounds. Because managers are expected to answer questions long before all the answers exist. Like, what does this mean for my team? What should we prioritize? And how will success be measured? And what happens if people struggle? Managers are often expected to provide certainty while they're still navigating uncertainty themselves. And honestly, I have a lot of empathy for managers. Over the years, some of the hardest conversations I've had during transformations were with managers. Not because they didn't believe in the change, quite often they did, but because they were trying to carry two realities at the same time. The future the organization was moving toward, and the reality their teams were still living today. And that is a difficult place to stand, especially when people are looking to you for answers you don't yet have. When managers are not adequately supported, something predictable happens. Pressure begins to accumulate in the middle of the organization. The pressure from above, pressure from below, pressure from deadlines, pressure from targets, pressure from competing priorities, pressure from people who are confused, and pressure from people who are insecure. Eventually, many managers begin operating in survival mode. the focus quietly shifts from let's make this work to let's just get through this. And perhaps that's one reason this topic feels familiar. Because most of us know what survival mode feels like. Not only at work, in life. Maybe you have experienced periods where you were carrying too many responsibilities, trying to meet everyone's expectations, holding things together for other people, continuing to function, continuing to deliver, continuing to show up. From the outside, everything looked fine, but inside, something felt different. Because the goal was no longer growth. The goal was simply getting through the week. When people live in survival mode long enough, energy shrinks, patience shrinks, curiosity shrinks, and eventually, even hope can begin to shrink. Organizations are not that different, and neither are the people inside them. The longer I work in transformation, the more convinced I become that managers are not simply implementing change. They are absorbing it. They absorb confusion that hasn't been resolved at the top. They absorb frustration that hasn't found anywhere else to go. They absorb uncertainty, pressure, and competing expectations. In many ways, they become the shock absorbers of the organization. But even shock absorbers have limits. And when people carry too much for too long, the effect starts to show. A manager becomes quieter, a team becomes less engaged, momentum slows, and leaders start wondering why people are not fully on board. Perhaps the more useful question is this: how long have we been asking people to carry the weight of transformation without giving them enough support? Because if transformation is truly experienced in the middle of an organization, that's where support needs to begin. Perhaps that's why I rarely think of managers as the people who drive transformation, but more often I think of them as the people who carry it. Often long before anyone realizes how heavy it has become. The weight nobody measures. Thank you for listening to Undercurrent, where we explore the hidden forces beneath transformation. Next time, we will explore another hidden force that often goes unnoticed until it begins affecting performance, engagement, and adoption. Change fatigue. What it actually is, why it is so easy to misread, and why it matters more than most organizations acknowledge. See you in the next episode.